We really tried going into this episode of Locked On Grizzlies to find the bright side, to try to be as positive as we can be in a world of Memphis Grizzliesdom that is currently doom and gloom. We couldn't find anything. So we're going to do our best to try to find ways within the next 30 minutes to make you feel a little bit better about the Grizzlies. We don't promise anything, though, except it's a Friday, and you know what that means on Locked On Grizzlies. I'm Joe. He's Damichael. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Friday. You have got to get down on Friday. As a wise philosopher once said, Rebecca Black, fun. Looking forward to the weekend. Damichael, I feel like we missed an opportunity to party like Rebecca Black told us to when we were together last weekend. But, you know, I feel like you go a little bit harder in the paint than I do at this stage of my washed old life. I may not be able to keep up with you. Shout out to Rebecca Black. Shout out to Damichael Cole. And shout out to you, dear listener, dear viewer, for being with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. I'm Joe Mullinax, again, joined by Memphis Grizzlies beat writer, award-winning Memphis Grizzlies beat writer Damichael Cole. Very excited to be talking Grizzlies basketball, or, you know, what's left of it, apparently, after the last couple of days here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. As proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. You should be liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing. Wherever you get podcasts, make Damichael and I a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops. And of course, you can also subscribe to our daily newsletter, lockedondaily.com. Grizzlies words from me literally every day, talking about the current state of things for Memphis. I wrote about Gigi Jackson. I know you've talked about Gigi recently. Damichael, I wrote about it for the newsletter. Will the real leader please stand up? Shout out to Eminem, Slim Shady. Who in the world is actually leading this franchise right now? It feels rudderless. It feels like they're up a certain creek without a paddle. I wrote about that. You can get free words from me in your inbox, lockedondaily.com. Go and subscribe. Damichael, I loved your solo show. I know it wasn't the happiest of topics. I told y'all Denny Avdija could ball. I said that.
You did.
And maybe people believe me. I know you believe me, partner, but maybe others believe me a little bit more now. That is my guy. Him and Klingon did some good things against the Grizzlies this past Wednesday. But we're moving on. And the first thing that we're going to move on to is the injury report, because once again, that is something that we need to keep an eye on with the Memphis Grizzlies. A change that a lot of folks noticed on social media, Damichael, and again, as the Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, maybe you can give us a little bit more insight. Ja Morant was out at first due to shoulder soreness, right? And then it morphed into hamstring soreness. And now it is on the injury report, it is listed as a hamstring strain. I feel like we're going in the wrong direction with Ja. Is it time to start worrying about that hammy?
Somewhat. I don't think it's time to be overly concerned until, you know, there's a more declarative update put out there. And what typically will happen is if it's something, you know, grade 2 or that extent, they will say that. And then there will be a bigger timeline given, usually something like week to week or reevaluated in a couple weeks or something of that nature. But all the signs right now, at least at this point, it's still, because I'm sure there's probably still learning stuff. But as of right now, I don't think it's time to be overly concerned, especially with the way that the schedule, you know, is lining up. We've talked about it, that after this Clippers game, they have one of the longest breaks of the season, you know, without a game. They don't play again until Tuesday. So you got a lot of downtime in between that game. You're definitely going to get a couple practices in that stretch. So that's really what's going to be telling. One, will Ja practice in that time? And then two, come Tuesday, he'll have to be upgraded on that injury report, even if it's doubtful or some sense, because if he's not, that's when it becomes a major concern for me, considering at that point you'll be talking about 11 games left in the regular season. But as of right now, this feels like a game-to-game thing that the Grizzlies are monitoring, and this happens a lot. You know, I don't think it's, you know, a big eye-opening thing, the fact that they changed it to a hamstring strain. This happens all the time with the Grizzlies. If you remember with the right shoulder soreness injury, you remember the first couple games, he missed. It was just right shoulder soreness. And they changed it to some fancy term, but it was still shoulder soreness, right? So, I don't think it's time to be overly concerned just yet. Let's just go with what we've been saying all along. And that's that this is a hamstring injury. So, in the case of those type of injuries, this isn't shoulder soreness. This isn't about pain tolerance. This is something you want to get ahead of. This is something you want to manage so you don't bring him back too early and say, all right, Ja, go out there and play 35 minutes. And then it turns into, that grade 2, grade 3 injury. And we just said the Grizzlies after Friday, you're talking about 11 games left in the regular season. So if you push the envelope here, you're talking about us having to question if Ja will be ready for the postseason. And no one really wants to ask that question. So, they're playing the safe route. They're being cautious with this thing, and that's what you got to do with hamstring injury, hamstring strain at this point.
Especially when you move and you're explosive the way that Ja Morant moves and the way that he's explosive. I'm with you 100%. I'm not worried about it until Tuesday or Monday night, I guess it would be, when the next injury report comes out. You know more about NBA schedules than me. I would imagine that, especially since they're in Los Angeles, they're going to play the game tonight, probably have tomorrow off, and maybe travel Saturday afternoon, early evening to the next location, maybe practice on Sunday and Monday, like you said, get a couple of practices in. That would make sense to me. But again, you would be more familiar with their schedule than me. If after that extended break, this Grizzlies team still is without Ja Morant, I am going to be worried on that episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Mm-hmm. That's when I'm going to be nervous because of the timeline that you just laid out. And at some point, we have to turn the page. Is this a team that is pursuing the 2 seed? Is this a team that is going to start thinking matchups as things solidify? Do you want to try to get to the Houston Rockets? You might not be able to at the 7 seed, but is it something where you want Denver? You want the Lakers? How do you start figuring that stuff out and configuring your roster? You're running out of time to legitimately say, we're still in the 2 seed hunt. In terms of games back, technically they're there. But the way that they're playing, they are not there. And unless things change quickly, we need to pivot, right? The pivot needs to occur from, okay, we can still get the 2 seed to how do we get these guys as healthy as humanly possible for whoever the Grizzlies play? And then beyond that, do they care about matchups? I'm sure that's something we'll talk about in future episodes. But if that is the case, and if they don't care if they lose, right now they act like they don't care if they lose. But if it's almost like a strategic thing at this stage, then why not keep Ja out for another week and make sure he's as healthy as he can be going into the playoffs? Because in reality, if you're in the 4-5 matchup, how much does that matter in terms of, obviously you'd like to have game 7 at home, but you're playing a team that is comparable to you. It's not really, it's kind of a coin flip to begin with, right?
It depends on who they match up with, and
that's fair.
Like that's what it comes down to. But at the end of the day, you want a top 3 seed to me. Like you really want a top 2 seed, but 3 will be fine. Because for the better part of the year, that's where they've been. And you get a 4 or 5 seed, you're matched up against the Lakers, Rockets, Nuggets in the first round. And now, granted, having a 3 seed doesn't really look like it'll be much better based on the way the teams have been playing well. For example, right now, if you're the 3, you're playing the Golden State Warriors, and an argument that can be made that since they've acquired Jimmy Butler, they've been better than all those teams that we just talked about. You can make that argument, So with that being said, it really doesn't matter who you play. That's why a lot of people want to see the Grizzlies get out of the first round. That's still honestly not enough for me. If they win a first round series, I want to see them have a competitive second round season. But look, getting back to the guy that we were talking about at the top of all this, his health is going to play a huge role in all that. That's Ja Morant. Sure, it's going to be the case with the other guys as well. Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Santi just got back from his calf injury. They're missing some couple other guys. We'll talk about Brandon Clarke here a little bit more later. But Ja Morant now, I think we're 70 games in. He's played 43. So he's missed 27 games. And we talk about 6 is the most games he's played consecutively. They're going to need Ja Morant out there inconsistently in a playoff series because we'll watch this Clippers game. We've seen the Grizzlies play against those type of teams without Ja. and they tend to not have a lot of success. Overall, this year without Ja Morant, the Grizzlies are 15-12. But go look at the games against some of those top teams, and you get different results.
I think that what I was trying to get at, you're exactly right about matchups. I'm with you there, partner.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to get to my point with is, at some point you turn the page and you say exactly what you just said. Ja Morant being healthy matters more than everything else. So do you want the 2 seed? Of course you want the 2 seed, right?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
But what have they done since the All-Star break? What have they done to truly suggest that they are capable of achieving that goal? Very little, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm getting close to that page, and it's probably in the next week, where if Ja can't go in that Tuesday night game, okay, fine. Keep him out until the week before the playoffs start, and let's see if we can at least get him in some sort of a rhythm. That would be where I'm at with Ja. Let Damichael and I know in the comments. Hit us up on X at Damichael C, at Joe Mullinax. Are you worried about Ja Morant and that hamstring strain? Damichael says it's not quite time to worry yet. I agree, but I might be a little bit closer than Damichael is. When we come back, another name on the injury report, Brandon Clarke, having a sneaky good season for the Grizzlies. Not even that sneaky. I feel like it's being appreciated a decent amount. How does Memphis replace him going into tonight's contest? We'll talk about that. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. And instead of hiring full-time, Upwork allows for you to find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale any business effectively. Posting a job is free, simple, and within a day, you get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is also brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here. I know you're fired up about your Tennessee Vols. I know you're feeling the juice there, Damichael Cole. Unfortunately, the VCU Rams, not so much feeling the juice. But FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Maybe your favorite has already been eliminated. Your bracket's already busted. FanDuel can make it easy to back other teams with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, all times of the day, it feels like right now, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So what are you waiting for? Go visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Another name on the injury report, officially out. Brandon Clarke got hurt in that Wednesday night game against the Portland Trail Blazers. Didn't look good. It probably could have been worse than it was. I am not so much worried about him as the same reason that I'm not as worried about Ja. I think that we need to see where everything kind of lands after this prolonged break. I'm guessing the Grizzlies have had these few days off circled on their calendar for a while. How do you replace a guy that has been productive like Brandon Clarke? Because a lot of the conversation on social media, I was involved in it on X on Thursday, the bench not being as good as they should be, right? What role does Zach Kleiman play in the reserves not being able to support the big three? Brandon Clarke's not one of those issues, right? Clarke is one of the guys that's actually been dependable all season long. Is it as simple as he's going to have to play the rookies? I mean, we talked before we started recording, Damichael. Zach Edey only had 11 minutes against Portland. That's a bad look when the guy across from him is the one that went a pick or two before him, right? So when Donovan Clingan is giving minutes that are meaningful for Portland and Taylor Jenkins doesn't trust Zach Edey, you have another big go down in Brandon Clarke. Is this a game where Zach Edey doesn't play and you see Jay Huff getting starting level minutes? How do you attack the front court distribution of time now with Brandon Clarke out, at least for this game, and perhaps moving forward for a little bit?
Well, we can get this out of the way now. If what we've seen for the majority of this season is any indication, this game will be more tailored towards Zach Edey's skill set than Jay Huff's. Jay Huff has been important for the Grizzlies, at times, and you would hope against the Clippers that he could come in and give you that spark with his three-point shooting and things like that. But we've seen Jay Huff struggle in these type of matchups against the Domantas Sabonis, Ivica Zubac, Anthony Davis types. I still go back to the game the Grizzlies started them against the Lakers. Didn't really work out.
Zubac is playing like an all-star since the all-star break. He's looks phenomenal.
He's somewhere probably in the top 6 centers right now, top 7, somewhere in there. Like he's dominant. And he has a history of being dominant against this Grizzlies team. So you're going to need that physicality that Zach Edey brings. And look, you don't really have a lot of options. Without Brandon Clarke, you're talking to turn potentially to Jay Huff or Marvin Bagley to get more minutes. We haven't seen much of Bagley. Look, I think Bagley's in a situation where, if we're just being honest, I don't think they traded for him to say, oh, yeah, this is a guy who could be a playoff piece for us. They traded for him because they knew on that contract it said, by the summer he'll be gone. And that's not intel or anything. That's just my outlook of the situation. That's what it looks like. So with that being said, you haven't seen, a heavy dosage of, Marvin Bagley, while other guys have gotten, more of a chance. A guy like Jay Huff who has more years, on his contract and things like that. But at this point, you're missing Brandon Clarke. I think you need someone who can be kind of that rim running, can catch some alley hoops. Marvin Bagley is that guy. He's the energy big, kind of in a way, that Brandon Clarke plays. Defensively, they're not the same. Brandon Clarke is really turned out to be a strong defender for the Grizzlies over the course of his career. That hasn't been, a strong point in Marvin Bagley's game up to this point. But with all that being said, you're going to miss Brandon Clarke because he's the guy who the Grizzlies can put in the game, final minutes, and say, we're switching everything, right? He can hold his own on the perimeter. I don't know who else they're going to trust to do that. I believe they'll still be able to close games with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Santi Aldama. So not really as worried about how they'll close games, but there's going to be stretches in the game especially against a guy like Zubac, which we both have pointed out. He's a problem. And you need Zach Edey in this type of game. These are the games that you drafted Zach Edey for. You didn't draft Zach Edey to go against, the small ball teams and things like that. You drafted him because the Grizzlies got bullied at times against these type of opponents, and specifically against Ivica Zubac. So they're gonna have to play him. He should probably have 11 minutes in the first half of this game.
Here's where I stand on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's a disconnect between Kleiman and Jenkins.
Yeah.
At least into my eye. Again, I'm putting my name on that, not Damichael's. Just watching the game and watching how the season has played out, you hear Kleiman talk about how he envisioned Edey being used. That is not how Zach Edey gets used. It's just not. Now is the time to play that guy. Today, tonight. Now is the moment. If he cannot play against someone who's a better version of him, right? Obviously, Zubac is better than Edey. That's not my point.
Yeah.
Edey exists for these types of moments. If he can't play against this guy, even if he gets beat by this guy, if you pull him off the floor because you think he's unplayable, there are larger problems, right? When he comes off the court, because he still should only play about 25 minutes, even if you play him, he just shouldn't play 11. I'm with you on Bagley, and I think that you can play Bagley next to Santi Aldama, and I think you can play Bagley next to Jaren Jackson Jr. Okay. There's malleability there, even if you want to go small, right? I think there's potential there for Bagley to fit, maybe not be the most efficient piece. I'm not trying to act like he's the answer to the prayers, but I do think but in terms of him being that rim running big, if he's a bigger, less good, acknowledging less good version of Brandon Clarke.
Yeah.
If the argument for Clarke is his malleability, to me, a similar argument can be made for Bagley, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'll be puzzled if he doesn't, see playing time in this game where they're going to need, those. Now, Bagley has never been known to be the most physical guy. So not exactly his greatest strength either. But I think, with his size, him being, a guy who's 6'10", 6'11", he's always been a really good athlete. He can help in this type of game. So really interested to see if he'll get an opportunity. But at the end of the day, what we touched on, Zach Edey will be extremely important again in a matchup against Zuba.
And Santi Aldama is going to see a lot of playing time, right? Again, Edey might start. Edey will get 25 minutes. Santi should get 30 to 32 would be my guess. Let Damichael and I know in the comments. Hit us up on X, at Joe Mullinax, at Damichael C. How would you try to replace Brandon Clarke? Having a really good season for Memphis, he's going to be missed. When we come back here on this episode, we're going to preview Grizzlies-Clippers, a nice long weekend breather. Chance for us to all maybe get outside, touch some grass, stop being so mad online. One last game before a little bit of a break. We'll talk about that next. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, or if you're like me and you just took a trip to Memphis where you flew out twice at 5 a.m. and you have still been struggling to catch up on that, remember, I'm old and washed. 5 Hour Energy has your back. I know they have my back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. I can relate to that. And especially if you're going to be staying up late to watch the game tonight, or NCAA tournament games, getting an extra round of golf in after work, or just trying to keep up with how busy your day can be. 5 Hour Energy gives you a quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. With longer days, getting outside is a must for hiking, a run, exercise. My favorite flavor personally is Tropical Burst, and it's great for on-the-go convenience, whether I'm at a game, traveling. 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab, and it keeps you feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors and to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. And if you need one now, grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They are literally everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. Shout out to 5 Hour Energy, helping me get through this last week.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Real quick, I want to reiterate, if you haven't watched Bracket Breakdown, you have to go check it out. It's easily one of the coolest things that Locked On has done since I've been a part of the network. And again, there's rumors that something similar might be coming around for the playoffs. Maybe you'll see your boy Damichael Cole or myself popping up. Hopefully not in person. They can take Damichael if it's in person. I'm done traveling for a while. But they're really doing a cool job building up Locked On. That's been a wonderful first step. And go check out Bracket Breakdown if you haven't already done so. The Grizzlies play the Clippers tonight. We talked about that. The Clippers are playing good basketball. James Harden looking like the James Harden of old, especially as a creator of offense for others. Every once in a while, you see the Kawhi Leonard of old, which is a friendly reminder that he is the basketball terminator. We talked about Zubac earlier. The Clippers, if they're playing the way that they've played lately, can beat anybody in the Western Conference. And I didn't stutter. I mean anybody. And that is one of the fascinating things about this Clippers team. It's always been about the health of Kawhi. It's always been about, can they keep these guys on the floor together? They're closer to that than they've been in some time, and they're reaping the benefits right now. How do you see Memphis going into this game? No Ja Morant, no Brandon Clarke. How do they right the ship and feel a little bit better about themselves going against a team in Los Angeles, the caliber at this moment of the Clippers? I mean, to be frank, they're playing better basketball than the Grizzlies are right now.
Yeah, Joe. I don't have any super exciting answer for you on this one, but what I will say is this: play hard and play with some intensity. Now, let's for those who've played sports before, it's a different perspective for you because you feel like players probably go out there and they're huffing and puffing after playing 30+ minutes, like they always play hard, but when I say that, play connected as a team. We've seen too many open shots, too many defensive breakdowns. Guys need to talk. Guys need to – you at least want to – like after that last game against OKC that the Grizzlies lost, I think it was the fourth game of that 4-game losing streak where the first 3 games were all, heartbreaking last-second losses. When they lost against OKC – at least for the better part of that game, it was like, well, they, you could tell they tried. Like the energy was there, the effort was there. And, Taylor Jenkins talked about it after the game. Look, the goal is to win. And I think, quite frankly, they need to win this game. especially if you want to talk. You want us to stop talking about the fact that Golden State and the Clippers are right behind them. They're right there. So this is a chance for the Grizzlies to kind of hold the Clippers off a little bit, kind of hold the Warriors at bay, keep them in their area. So this is a big game for Memphis in that regard. But the Clippers have everything to beat the Grizzlies. Like everything that Memphis has struggled at this season kind of is what this team is good at. They're physical. The Grizzlies have struggled with physicality. The Grizzlies defensive rebounding has been a problem. Zubac cleans the glass. He's like Windex out there. Like he cleans the glass. So that's a problem in itself. And the Grizzlies have struggled somewhat staying in front of the basketball, particularly in the second half of this season. You got James Harden. You got Norman Powell. You got Kawhi Leonard. It's not exactly easy pickings over there. They have options on options. They're going to come at you. And look, Desmond Bain is going to have a big game. Jaren Jackson Jr., look, 5 of 18 in his last game. You can't have it. Ja's out. You're the guy who's supposed to be all-NBA player, right? He's the guy that's up for the big contract potentially. They need that Jaren Jackson Jr. He's shown he could be that. I'm not saying that he can't, but the urgency is up. You can't afford those. He was 6 of 16 tonight. He'll be fine the next game. No, they need it now. This is where the great players rise to the occasion, right? They need Jaren Jackson Jr. to be a great player. They need Desmond Bain. Look, the Clippers got those dudes, and Ty Lue, it's been like that since he was with the Cavs. They have those defenders. They're gonna pull on your jersey. They're gonna pull on you a little bit. And getting back to that point, Luke Kennard. This is a team Luke Kennard has struggled against. Luke Kennard has to be aggressive. He has to continue to get downhill because with Ja Morant out, one thing that we know is the ball goes into Luke Kennard's hands a little bit more. He's going to have to match that physicality. That's the goal. What do you think, Joe? Let me know what you think as well. Will Luke Kennard take 5 3-pointers in this game? Because typically this is one of the teams that takes him out because of their ability to be physical with him and simply just not let him get good looks. But I think Luke Kennard's aggressiveness will also be a big determining factor in how the Grizzlies will look.
I think Luke Kennard needs to take 5 threes, and I think he needs to come off the bench. I think you start Scottie Pippen Jr. because it allows for Desmond Bain to be the shooting guard.
Yeah.
Not just somebody who has to be a combo guard who has to share facilitation responsibilities. They need Desmond Bain to drop buckets. That's what they need Desmond Bain to be. I think Scottie Pippen should be the starter, and you worry about the half and half facilitation sharing when it's against reserves. That would be a change I would make. And I also want to throw something at you that you can feel free to throw right back, okay? And I know it's not going to happen because Taylor Jenkins doesn't make adjustments like this.
Yeah.
We keep talking about point of attack defense. They stink at it.
Yeah.
Why not try some zone? More and more NBA teams are running zone defenses. And I'm not saying
you've been hearing me on the radio, Joe.
I get around in terms of checking out the content now. I think that is something that should be explored. And if that is a weakness of yours, why do you keep slamming your head against the wall? Instead of saying, damn it, we need to do this. Sorry, I know we're a family-friendly podcast. I'm getting fired up because at some point it comes down to effort.
Yeah.
Taylor Jenkins needs to make an effort and say what we are doing is not working. Give them some different schematic looks. Try something new. If you can't defend the way that you've done it in the past, why are you still trying to do it? I would do some more zone defense and see how that throws off the Clippers.
Yeah, to kind of further elaborate, the example that I've used specifically is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone out there thinks that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are that impactful of defenders.
No, they are not.
They are not that much better than a Luke Kennard, Desmond Bain, backcourt, Ja Morant, Desmond Bain, however you want to slice it. But what the Cavs have done a great job of is understanding, especially under Kenny Atkinson a little bit more, as he can coach. They're top 3 in the NBA right now in defensive zone usage, and they're good at it. And the key to zone is you can't overdo it because the NBA, it's pros. Once they figure it out, you're toast. Like we've seen it over the history of the game. Like Miami is a good example. Eric Spoelstra pulls out zones, teams struggle, and then when they figure it out, Miami's cooked a lot of times. I think D'Antoni, when he was with the Suns, they were going against the Lakers. They muddied that series up by winning a couple games, playing primarily zone. The Lakers figured it out. That was all she wrote. So you can't get over-reliant on it. But the thing about that zone defense is it would help prevent as much dribble penetration as teams have been getting on the Grizzlies. It's a pride thing too in there, because when you're playing zone, you're basically saying, hey, we're struggling to stay in front of our man. So, some players are prideful, but at the end of the day, you put all that stuff to the side. You're trying to win basketball games, and great teams are doing it. The Cavs are doing it, and they understand that, hey, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland aren't some great defensive backcourt. So, look, you make best with what you have. I'm with you, Joe. I want to see the Grizzlies at least sprinkle it in. I don't want to see them try to become over-reliant on it, because then, a team like the Clippers, they're going to put Kawhi in the middle, and they're just going to toast them. They're going to feast on you. But at the end of the day, it is something that I think they should sprinkle in, give this team a different look, then go mix in some man principles, play around a little bit, because this defense, they need some type of adjustments that'll yield better results.
Variety is the spice of life, and now is not the time to be proud. All right? This is not the moment. This is the moment where you should be prioritizing the 2 seed. That is still possible, even with all the negativity over the last several games, aside from the Tony Allen retirement. That was a nice break from the negativity, but it's been pretty rough the last week or two. This is a chance for you to shake things up a bit and to show that you are aware that it's not working and you're trying something different. Because at some point, it does come down to coaching, but it also comes down to players. If you just keep throwing the same stuff out there each and every day, expecting a different result, you know what that's the definition of? Insanity. Okay? That's the literal definition of insanity. You got to try something new. You got to mix it up. If you don't have point of attack defenders, try something new. Will the Grizzlies do it? Probably not. If they do, will Damichael and I be excited? You betcha. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It is appreciated. Obviously, we're heading into the weekend here. The next time we'll be together is the Monday show. We'll talk Grizzlies-Clippers. Hopefully, we'll get some practice updates from out west, kind of see how things are going, maybe get a little bit more detail on the Morant injury. And maybe we do start the process with a few weeks to go in the regular season, partner. Who do we want to see? Who do we not want to see? The way they're currently playing, I don't really want to see anybody. But it's one of those situations where, Memphis, assuming they stay out of the play-in, they're going to see one of Denver, Los Angeles. You mentioned the Warriors, the Rockets, obviously.
You're going to see a really good team regardless.
Need to start kind of thinking this stuff through. It's getting closer.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to have those conversations again. After this, we'll be talking about 11 games left in the regular season. The Grizzlies are going to have some off time, so those teams will be playing in that stretch. We'll see how the movement patterns, affect what's going on. So looking forward to kind of breaking that down and then seeing where the Grizzlies are on the health standpoint as well.
Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Make Damichael and I a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops. Make sure you're subscribing over at LockedOnDaily.com to our free daily newsletter, Grizzlies Words from Me, NBA analysis, fantasy basketball advice, and so much more. Again, LockedOnDaily.com. Thanks to everybody that has subscribed so far. Hopefully you're one of them. And thank you for being an everydayer to this here podcast as well. For Damichael Cole, I am Joe Mullinax. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Try to enjoy this Grizzlies game tonight. And we will catch you next time here on Locked On Grizzlies. See ya.